Alright, hey guys. Continuing to watch this XL2 series, and I want to comment and go over some more of the games. Especially because it seemed like on this map especially, both teams really fumbled with what exactly they wanted to do with the comps that they had, but we'll get more into that as we see. It seems like there was some general direction, but then there was some confusion on how to actually get the point, because both teams didn't even get first ticks on this, so Zapri goes off here on defense as well, so I can talk about some things on how to counter it. I think both teams have had this problem of, okay, so I know whenever you don't know what they have, basically Ryan's job is basically to touch the point, or if you have a bunch of tanks, you want to like force and jump onto the point as fast as possible. So they do a good job of doing that, but part of what you want to do as the attacking team is realize what tank they have. So if they have Winston, you play differently if they have Winston or if they have Marissa. You don't really see defense Ryan that much, so I'll compare the two. So on defense, you usually have a Winston sitting over here, or over here, and you basically got to decide where you want to go. So if you send your tanks onto the point, you got to decide what you want to do after that. A lot of times, if you know that they're going to have dive, and like if you've recognized it because you don't see anyone standing here, a lot of times you want to pull back, and I think they do an okay job of this, because you want to pull back because you're about to get dove on, because there's going to be people from over here, maybe someone from over here, and they're all going to come and collapse on you. So you want to usually pull back and make use of your shield. So your shield would be in the choke over here, and then you'd be damage mitigating all the people shooting from over here. So I think the idea of this is right. But I mean, the Tracer's behind them, it's fine, she goes main. They're in a perfectly good situation right here. They've pulled back. But you want to get healed because they've technically forced back the flankers. Like Tracer was behind, but she saw that everyone turned, so they have the rest of the people like around the point and exactly where they want them. So this is where you pull back. So you'd pull your team back behind this wall and stand over here, and then you'd wait for your Moira to get beam and finish healing all the people up right here, because you have a few low people. So you finish healing that, and you get beam early, and then you stack on the point. But I would rather them like not commit to doing like these jiggle peaks, because they're not actually gaining ground right now. They're actually giving room for the other team. The other team wins by killing the supports or killing other members. So if you have Genji, Lucio, Zen, Tracer, they're all sitting from far range, they're poking right now. Any poke that they're doing is building their ults, and then will actually disrupt your team, because you want to get a hard push where you have tank ults and you're abusing Moira beam and healing. So something I would communicate to them after the match is, it's good. Our initial plan of walking here is really good because we want to pull back after the fact, but we want to be behind this wall, or we want to take cover over here. We want to make a plan basically so that we understand what they have, then we pull back, let our healing come up. We have beam. If we literally would have waited like 1-2 seconds, we would have had beam. We all stand out of line of sight, we walk up together. They've already given us all the ground, and they have cooldown, so it doesn't really matter. But I think that play right there kind of defeated them on this push, where I really would have liked to seen them take cover. Because something that you need to realize is, if you're playing tanks versus dive, any trading always goes in favor of dive, because dive thrives on creating chaos, and tanks relies on having as many members alive as possible and getting as much value from your heals, from your damage mitigation, and just basically being big fat bodies, where dive really wants to split you up. They want to have Tracer behind you, they want to have Genji getting resets, so any case where they're getting trade kills is not in your favor. So you want very clean fights when you're playing tanks. You can see there's ult dumps there, but I mean, any trading kills always goes in favor, especially on the defensive team, but I think on dive, it's a priority as well. I don't mind Flower moving to Tracer here. I think this is okay just to counter Zapri, and Zapri pops off here. I'm not sure, actually. Like, if they're going to be swapping here, I want them to understand what they're actually going for. Because I feel like this comp, I don't know if I like it enough. So it's going to be hard for them to like take ground with like the McCree. I'm not sure if their plan is to take high ground with him and then like force back onto the point and like force the dive actually to be like zoned with the hit scan and like have the tracer not be a flank pressure, because you can have Nene like basically mirroring their tracer and playing safe. But I'd rather them play Genji dive here with a Moira, because as we can see here, they don't protect Goliath hardly at all here, and Zapri just runs train on him. Like, he keeps killing him over and over and over again, where I think if you want to play this more aggressive comp and you want to leave Goliath alone, you play Moira. You don't want to play Zen and then leave your Zen to die every single fight and then not get any value with his Discords. Like, if you're going to leave your support to die or just be alive on his own, then you play Moira. You stick him on Moira, and Lucio Moira can play safe as a unit, and you don't really have to defend them as much because they have so much self-sustain healing. But I think with the direction of what they did here, it's incorrect for them to play Zen. I think I'd like for them to play safer and protect him more. Because I'm kind of confused at what they're trying to do here. We can see they trade like well HP-wise here. Like, you want to give Flower room, so you want to have your tanks basically take damage, apply pressure, and force their tanks or their divers back, so you can give him room to actually like do hit scan things. But it's the case of Goliath getting killed over and over again here, where I think they assumed, like, oh, Grizzlies is taking a bad fight here, they've taken a lot of damage, but I'm not sure if they accounted for the trance, because they're just straight baiting here. All the members are taking damage, and they're just going to trance after the fact, and they just trade into Goliath, because they know Goliath just swapped and he's not going to have ult. And then it's just clean the kills up again. Part of playing that aggressively as well gets you insane value, because all the members on your team are going to be able to play that much more aggressively at that point, and they're going to be able to take a lot of damage and deal a lot of damage themselves, so they're able to build ults. They have a window now, but they, I assume, want like a full regroup here, so the window really is lost. And we don't even get to see this, but Goliath keeps dying over and over and over again. I'm not sure if this is Midnight's not protecting him, Adam not protecting him, or the team not pressuring or scouting the Tracer properly, because you can't let your Zen continue to die like this, never protect him, because he's getting like actually zero ult charge. Like, they keep dry running, he just keeps getting insta-killed. And at that point, you just swap to Moira, or you just play a different comp where you protect him more. They're playing harder dive now, but we can see how much time is left. There's only 1:30 left, and they keep making these swaps, so they keep having swaps where people are low ult charge. So Flower just swapped. Goliath's not been getting much ult charge. So they've just been really struggling. He just keeps dying. It's, I mean, I understand Zapri's like target focusing him like a lot. That was actually a pretty nuts stick. That was really good, but I'm not sure if the tanks had the right idea on how to take ground. It seems like they both took the same direction. I understand with your tanks, so we'll watch this again one more time. With your tanks, so when you're playing against dive, you want to, on offense, you want to like pressure, and so you'd want to like use your tank cooldowns to like take ground, but it felt like they're just prioritizing taking juice like a lot, and they don't know where anyone else is. where I don't know where they're trying to get their Zen. Because walking up to Juice with your tanks is good and all, but you don't know if anyone is standing over here, or where Zapri is right now. By over here, I mean on the stairs. So, like, if your tanks use your cooldowns to get up onto Juice, there's all this room for people to be standing on stairs back here to just collapse on them over here. Because they've used their cooldowns, they no longer have that same pressure. I think he's just... maybe he's walking too far into the choke. Where you should just tuck him in to the wall over here and have him play on the stairs and play super safe, and then just have your tanks just straight scout everything. Take damage, but find out where Zapri is, because he just keeps hunting Goliath every single fight. I think they finally do it right here, where they finally have him tucked in and they're scouting. They look to counter for him. Do they actually counter him? Hold on. Let's make sure we go over this. I don't know where Midnight is. I think Midnight's diving. I understand they want to make room for their Genji, but it felt like they were at a point where that Primal didn't get much value. Yeah, I think Midnight boosted in here. This is... I think it's obviously a mistake, because they traded beats and then they basically XL2 counter dives. But Midnight's in. And then they get, like, basically no value from their Primal. Like, I think he was trying to save Midnight by making some room, but he actually just gets 6-man focus. And you can see his Primal just actually insta-melts here. So I understand you want to make room for Flower to, like, potentially Blade, but we can see he doesn't have Blade right now. You can still win this fight with Trance. I don't know if they were tracking ults properly, but, like, they have an ult advantage here. I'm trying to, like, theory craft to understand, like, what exactly he was trying to do, because I'm trying to, like, legitimize it. Maybe it was just, like, a straight up bad play where he was just trying to dive and maybe there was a dive call made. But I think the proper play is to just say either get a regroup because you traded beats and let Flower get Blade, or just wait for Clone Man or wait for Midnight to die and then try to trance in or something. I'm not exactly sure, because it's pretty confusing, because this really doesn't accomplish anything. You're not going to gain anything if you're over here. Your entire team is stacked over here. You've all committed to the counter dive, and then you solo dive in by yourself. You're not going to gain any room, because they're just going to be able to discord you and focus you as hard as they did. And then once we're at this point, we're becoming close to the point where it's like almost the point of no return, where, like, you're not probably going to get a fight anymore. And we can see now, ult-wise, they've done trades where I think the proper play would have been reset or commit together. But they kind of didn't do either. Which means they got, like, very low value with their ults. And then now we're finally at the point where Flower has Blade, but he's dead because they didn't reset before. And they still have Trance on the other side. Yeah, and they really can't get Goliath through at this moment. I think if you're going to leave Goliath this hard out to dry, you definitely just put him on Moira. And if he's getting focused this hard, because you're not getting any value with your Zen currently, they only got like 1 or 2 pushes where they actually got him through the choke. All other times, he was just absolutely pressured in the choke and wasn't able to move through. And at that point, he is being like a bait presence, where like you're baiting him to like dive, and the enemy team dive on him, but they're insta-killing him so quickly, you're not getting that actual value from a bait. So like a bait being like, oh, he's going to get low, but we're going to save him, and then we're going to like kill all the people that are on top of him. But they're just like letting him die and then trying to continue to make a fight after the fact, which is really, really poor. Like, you either make the plan to like continue to bait for him, or like bait him as a person, but you have to get more value from it. Whenever you're trying to create ground and then you're just letting your support die, it's just like not going well. So you either just push him further back, change his character, or pocket him harder. So you use Matrix. Could have Matrix him probably a lot more. Because as soon as they'd walk through, Midnight was Matrixing Clone Man, and then they would just clip Goliath. So you either Matrix him more, like commit more to him, so you either run like Mercy or Zen Moira, I don't know. If you're having such a big problem, if you want to continue running the Zen, you have to run another support to maybe pocket him to give him more healing. So you either commit more to him, pull him back, or switch characters. Whenever you do this style, it seems like it's like lower level dive, because teams would just say kill Zen, and then they would just trade Zens all day. But you need to understand that like baiting him can be a plan, but you need to play around it. And I'm not sure if that's like a communication error that they were having, where their DPS weren't getting as much value with their flanks, or Goliath wasn't understanding what the plan was. If he was going to be the bait, then he needed to play safer. Alright, now we'll change comps. I already watched over this, but I think teams will watch this in the future, and if you continue to run this lineup, if XL2 continues to run this lineup, it will be abused, because Grizzlies plays this really incorrectly with Ryan. They do the right thing here, actually pressuring the Orisa, like what you're supposed to. You're supposed to run past the shield. But you're supposed to run her over. Like, you're supposed to not give her any room. You're basically supposed to run into her and run her over. But you can see they gave it like a reset time, where they ran into her and then they backed up, and it gave them time to actually like kill the Moira. This is super pixelated, and it's actually 1080. This is not cool, but I want to pay attention to XL2's DPS this fight. So they pressure Clone Man. Clone Man's getting all the heals right now. Nene gets hit with something, probably like a right click or something from someone. Or he gets boosted on by Grace. Yeah, he gets boosted on, I think. But like, this is the reset that you want if you're XL2. You want to absorb the initial pressure of a dive or of tanks running into you, survive it, and then recontest together, because you're going to have shield advantage a lot of times, because you're going to be spamming the Rhine shield as it comes in. He's not going to have a chance to reset it. You'll have a chance to reset your shield. You spam heal Clone Man because he's taking the brunt of the pressure, and they target prioritize Blam. Really good job. Doesn't matter if you trade, but if you kill the Moira, like what they did, this was high priority, and they're going to win from that. And a lot of times Junkrat's going to get tired after first fight, so this was wonderfully played, I think, even though they traded suit. That was good. That was really good. Because if you're playing against quad tank, a lot of times you're just going to get tired after one or two pushes every single time, so I thought they played that really well. Here's another problem I had. Like, this isn't going to happen with good teams, I don't think. Midnight's doing a good job baiting right here. But I have no idea why Grizzlies thinks that Midnight is the prioritization right here. They commit people to go to him, and then they lose their pressure on the point. So you can see where they're positioned right now. They literally have people standing over here, and then some people on the point. Like, it makes no sense why they pressured the D.Va up here. D.Va has basically no pressure on your backline if you're running Lucio Moira. Like, they can just heal each other through that. Like, she's not going to one-shot them, so... And if you think that she's that big of a priority, you send your entire team up through here and you push her out. So I just thought it was very, very curious why they would push her out and use cooldowns and then make their people on the point weak. Because then they just get picked off. And then of course you're just going to get tired. So they forced 2 hard pushes now. Now Zapri's like, okay, I need to play Tracer. I was carrying last point. I need to play Tracer. If you're playing as a Zarya on offense, there's a couple of different things you can do. Like what they were doing. Whenever they're running quad tank, you want to run in, do as much damage as possible, keep your Moira alive, and they want to tuck in. There's a couple of different ways that you can do that. So I want to go back so I can go over... So if you're playing with the Roadhog, I've seen this before a couple different times. If you know that they have Orisa, she's a lot of times going to be fortified over here by the point. So she's going to have like a wall behind her. And she's just going to be playing like the very edge of the point, and supports are going to be very safe because they can be playing in the back of the cafe. And for tanks to get at them, they'd have to run through the Orisa and a lot of times through the DPS on top, and then get behind on the supports, and it's going to be super, super difficult for that to happen. So there's 2 things that you can do. You can either stick your whole quad tank team and just run it up the gut and just try to overpower the Orisa and try to kill her through the Mercy healing or whoever's healing her, or you wrap around behind the cafe, therefore dislodging anyone up here. A lot of times your supports will be safe because they don't have dive, and then you'll be able to dislodge them, take this control over here, and force the supports to be in a more open location. So they'll either be by boxes, or they'll be playing somewhere on the point, and then they're actually way easier to pressure them. Also, the DPS will now be either up here, near boxes, so it'll be much easier to actually pressure them, but you need to have that plan to actually flank around to go behind them if you see this. So I expect if this happens again, like if another team plays against XL2, that's something that they can look to abuse, is actually doing that. Because the problem is Grizzlies swaps to Tracer here, and so the game plan changes. It isn't the same where you have quad tank. You don't have the same win conditions. Where if you have a Tracer, I'd probably tell my team, alright, we're going to send people, we're going to buy time. We're either going to push off the high ground over here, but we're going to have Tracer flank. We want to have Tracer flank, go around behind Cafe, and apply pressure from behind. So we want to have people on the point, and we want to apply pressure to either like their Zen or Mercy, so it forces them to turn around and deal with the Tracer in Cafe. Excuse me. So that our tanks on the point can get more value, and then our Tracer is just buying attention for multiple people. I think we saw here, Zapri went too early to pressure from behind. Zapri gets poked, he has to recall. Just now, the tanks are walking in. We go for the slam. Zapri is not behind them anymore. He was over here. He's had to pull back and is now over here. And he's lost all of his pressure from behind. So I think XL2 did a good job of dislodging him from behind, because that's basically their win condition. Grizzlies' win condition is having him apply pressure from behind and then tanks from in front. But they misplayed it, basically. Grizzlies did. XL2 played it correctly, but I think if they play it more correct in the future, they have to know exactly why, so it doesn't happen again. Grizzlies needs to know. Because the Tracer being in front is so useless. He's shooting an Orisa shield, shooting a tank getting pocketed, shooting tanks getting pocketed. It doesn't do anything if you shoot from behind. You want people to be turning, and so the tanks can collapse on them. So, I mean, that was really poor. You want the Tracer to be flanking. Also, it's another case of a person getting completely destroyed ult charge wide. Spirit is basically the Goliath of this game, where they keep doing these repeat pushes over and over again of getting no value. So, like, he keeps going in, not getting any charge, shooting an Orisa shield, dying, shooting an Orisa shield, dying, where they're not letting him get charge and actually do these pushes. So you can play it slower because XL2 has a slower comp. Let your Zarya get energy and then go for a push. Or just play Roadhog D.Va where you don't have to care about the charge. But I think XL2 does a really good job of prioritizing Spirit and Blam in these comps. Midnight also does a really good job of putting himself in the right place at the right time, so he has constant pressure of standing in the Zarya's face all the time. Not in the fact that he's getting pressured himself by the high energy beam. He's standing behind an Orisa shield a lot of the times, and so Grizzlies has really weak shield damage actually. Like if Zarya doesn't have energy, it's basically just graceful shooting it, so there's actually really low pressure on it, and him standing behind the shield is actually getting a ton of value. So we can see they finally flank. 38 seconds left with tanks. But Midnight is sitting here denying. And there's no one else on his team really in position to get grabbed. They prioritize Spirit again. It's really, really good job from XL2. I wish they had this level of coordination on their offense. Granted, Grizzlies isn't playing that well either, but XL2's done a good job about rotating their ults as well. Ults haven't been as much of a priority as placement of your characters, but I think they've done a good rotation of using 1 to 2 ults per fight to make sure that they have an okay ult bank for this last fight. Nene just was pretty insane here too. So I think both teams really need to look over this map and understand the planning of where you want to go. Like there was a lot of different swaps here with different supports, different plans with your comps, and you need to understand that you need to have set plays because they were playing some comps as if they were playing like their old comp. So they'd make a switch with a character and then they would play the same way. So for an example, they switched, XL2 swapped from Lucio or Zen, from Moira to Zen, sorry. But they played like they continued to have a Moira and they weren't protecting him as well, where they needed to prioritize it more often. I'm stressing that because it's important that they learn that they need to prioritize their Zen's HP and actually give him room because he just struggled to stay alive, and that's like a team-wide thing. It's like him positioning and team-wide decisions. So I'd really sit the XL2 members down and make them understand what they were making mistakes wise that led to this. So like, it isn't just the tanks maybe making a mistake. It's probably understanding and sitting them down and being like, what is the plan that we're going into this? If we had the plan to bait him, then we need to follow up on that plan. If there was no plan to bait him, then in the future we need to make that plan. But we also need to understand that if we are going to bait him, we need to protect him and need to give him enough resources that he can stay alive and that we can get through the choke and so we can actually get the fights won. Because we see this team, they know what they're doing. They have skilled players, but I think sometimes their planning is off, and I think that's really, really important. That's something that they can get exploited for, is not having good planning. And I think sitting down, probably you need to sit down with a translator so your Koreans understand. I don't know how good their English is, but they probably need to have a translator sit down, explain the plan thoroughly with them so that they'll understand exactly what they need to do.